Happy Wednesday. We are here doing our Wow Talk with our prayer and fasting series. And this week we're in for a treat. We have none other than Dr. Daniel Hopp, who will be talking to us. Dr. Hopp has many, many years of experience in this area. And so we're looking forward to hearing a good word. Welcome, Dr. Hopp.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tam, for the whole WOW community inviting me here. I brought a guest with me to have a conversation with you guys about a subject that's really dear and near to my heart, which is fasting for your health. I got to tell you, like many of us that come from Black culture, Latino culture, we come from cultures that at the very core of it is a surfeiting culture that we after often indulge because of our trauma of our history. We indulge in addictions, things that we input in the body to sustain the tremendous trauma that we historically as a people have gone through. So we develop art around it. We actually have foods and forms of entertainment that is designed to help us to survive through the traumatic life experiences that many of us have. One of the byproducts of it is that we have sickness, we have obesity, we have all kinds of destructive things that are left behind from the comfort food and from the excessive indulgence without balance. And so I have these conversations with myself, but also with others to help us to understand that in the body of Christ and those that are in servant leadership roles, that there is a need for us cultivating a discipline of fasting to bring balance to our life. So I have a conversation often with a colleague of mine, Ella Coleman. Ella Coleman, can you show yourself? Ella Coleman is a tremendous woman of thought and intellect, a prophetic, motivational speaker, publisher. She is a serial editor, book publisher, but she has a magazine called Purpose Magazine. If you do not have this magazine, it is the 21st century ebony magazine, okay, for Black culture and all kinds of culture today. But Ella Coleman, say hi to everybody and tell us a little bit about your magazine, because I want to bridge from that and have this conversation about fasting for your health. And again, thank you, Women of Worth, for inviting us to the community to have this conversation. Ella Coleman?
Well, thank you, Dr. Hopp, and I thank the WOW community, Dr. Katrina, and everyone that's here, Tam, and all of the wonderful ladies and men who are on this line. I am so grateful every time I get a chance to, in some way, contribute
Mm-hmm.
whatever the Lord would have me contribute in any circumstance. I cover a wide range, but today, Dr. Hopp had me talking about fasting because I did have to have and have had to have a fasting lifestyle to do what I
Mm-hmm.
do. But
Mm-hmm.
the Purpose Magazine, thank you, Dr. Hopp, for doing it. And I thank the platform for allowing it. I can at least show it. Uh, Hopefully I can. Let's see if I have it. There it is. Oh, I don't have sharing. Does she have
Is it
sharing?
possible for us to get sharing abilities?
Maybe
Now,
not.
Uh,
now I talked about, yeah. Well, maybe we'll pick it up at the end when we get to the end.
Yeah,
Maybe,
yeah.
yeah.
Because
But
just get into it. Yeah, right now. Okay. I forgot. You got to have this sharing.
yeah, well, if someone will give us sharing by the time we get to the end. But I wanted to say fasting is very important in our journey. There are some compelling reasons why we need to fast, and I think we should start the conversation off with that. No matter what your background is, we all really need to appreciate the reality that we live in a world that is not the world that we come from. We come from a world that's so different from this world. If we don't manage our experience in this world with some disciplines, we'll find ourselves being sick like the locals. When God wants us to be healthy and whole, like all kingdom citizens are supposed to be, it's your birthright. And so fasting is something that I came to personally late. Excuse me. But fasting has always been has been a big culture, has been a part of the group consciousness of every local church that I've been a part of. And when the group would fast, I would fast. But on a personal basis, I never fasted. I'm going to tell you the truth. When the group fast, When the hour that the fast was over, I was sitting in my car outside of McDonald's waiting to get my burger, my Big Mac, to make up for all the meals that I missed because I was not really skilled prophetically, intellectually, experientially, culturally on how to practice this process of fasting. Now, fasting is intentionally giving the body a break from constant input so it can repair itself, it can reset and regain clarity. The body needs clarity. But I think, Ella, it will help maybe if you can give us some of your compelling reasons why you see that we need to fast. And I'll share some of mine because I got to tell you, the Lord was dealing with me about fasting literally for years and decades. And I kind of reduced the conversation because, you know, I wanted to know, first of all, coming from a surfing culture, God asking me to fast, what did I do? Why are you mad at me? Because in our culture, if you love somebody, you feed them. Isn't that the truth? Okay.
This is
If you
true.
don't
I
like
know that from
somebody, you
coming
give them
from
a cup
down
of
south.
water. You give him a cup of water. And I wanted to deduce what did this mean that he wanted me to have a lifestyle of fasting. It was troubling for me. Psychologically, I couldn't get past it that you would ask me to do such a dangerous thing, you know. And so I had to come into some prophetic and some compelling reasons. And God did eventually get me to that. I mean, he really got me to a place where I began to understand the science and the prophetics behind it. But Ella, tell us in your journey, what have been some of the compelling reasons that God has given you for fasting?
Some of the reasons were my assignments,
Mm-hmm.
my assignments from God. When God spoke to me and told me to do a magazine many, many years ago, and I was in radio, I was in a lot of media kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and of course I was, in church, and I had already been familiar with fasting because we did fast at times at the church,
Mm-hmm.
group fasting and
Mm-hmm.
everything. It was just something that innately I felt that I needed to do
Mm-hmm.
because I I really was overwhelmed uh
Mm-hmm.
by the assignments I was getting because I felt like,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, when God said to do a magazine, then he said to do some other things
Mm-hmm.
that I know there are people that's out there right now
Mm-hmm.
that have felt
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed by assignments. But you know that if God gives
Mm-hmm.
us an assignment, he gives us a
Mm-hmm.
way. So one of
Mm-hmm.
the ways in which I was able to deal with running the magazine, having employees, that type of thing, and not really knowing, being the first generation to do it, was that I would fast every Monday and I
Mm-hmm.
would fast all day,
Mm-hmm.
um, from sun up to sundown, from the time I woke up all the way to, I would just fast probably usually to about 6 in the evening when I was
Mm-hmm.
home and ready to eat. And I didn't drink water. I didn't, and I don't say, don't do that. Don't do that. I didn't know what I was doing. Okay.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
kind of stumbled into this. But what
Yeah.
was happening is that, things were happening in the spirit, and I was being strengthened in the spirit
Mm-hmm.
without even knowing all of what I was doing. And
Yeah.
so, but if I had had guidance, I probably could have done better. But because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have guidance and I was just doing it on my own, I
Mm-hmm.
learned that if I did that once a week, that I had clarity, most
Mm-hmm.
clarity of mind. I was able to pull together
Mm-hmm.
articles. I was able to work with, printers, writers, photographers, artists, and it became like second nature.
Mm-hmm.
Because I fast, I didn't have that skill in the beginning, but as
Mm-hmm.
I got into the assignment,
Mm-hmm.
and continued to fast, God would open doors, and God would
Yeah.
also. There was a lot of spiritual warfare. I mean, that was
Yeah.
a time when there was
Yeah.
a big black, whatever it was, over my
Mm-hmm.
desk,
Mm-hmm.
and we had to bring it out. It was bringing interference in my communication,
Mm-hmm.
so that
Yeah.
broke that.
So
The
so
fast broke it.
your top compelling reason was there was an assignment. It was no way for you to do your assignment without you adapting the discipline of fasting. One of the compelling reasons why I did it was there were things that God wanted for me that was in heaven that needed to get to earth. And without the discipline plan of fasting, and this is God's compelling reason because I didn't have the sense to put this together, but I wanted to have children, but I didn't want to be married. And how was that going to happen without me having a wife? I didn't want a wife because I didn't want somebody that I had to be accountable to, that will criticize me all the days of my life, like the comedian said. I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to be free to serve God, but I wanted children, a compelling. But you know what? God knew that I needed a wife. There's no way, if it was legal, covenantly okay for me to do that. So God dealt with me, and this is what happened. I was the leader of a singles ministry, over 500 singles, about 250 women, 250 young men that were single, and I taught the gift of singleness, undistracted devotion. Do not seek marriage because that's a down step. Singleness is the up step, that when you're single, you're free to serve God with undistracted devotions. Well, I got to tell you, half of my ministry of 250 women, they had clocks they were working with. These dudes could wait 50 years, and they didn't have these constraints. And so God dealt with me about going on a 21-day fast because I had a belief system that was blocking what God wanted for me and blocking what 500 other people God wanted for them, which was the gift of oneness in marriage, but because of my thinking. So God will often call us to go on fast to change the state of mind. In fact, we are teaching fasting for your health because there's a mandate to heal the body from the neck up. If we get healed from the neck up, the rest of the body will be whole, is what the Lord says. So my compelling reasons was that there are things that are in heaven on earth that can't get through. Daniel 10th
Right.
chapter, there are roadblocks. God has says yes to the thing that you desire, but inadequate level of fasting, inadequate levels of freeing the agents from heaven to come to earth to deliver what God has for you is a reason why you need to fast. You need to act. You need to lift that level of state of being so the angels can use the energy of that to get through all the barriers from the planet heaven to the planet earth. So that was my compelling reason. There are things that many of us have been waiting and holding for God for years for our life, but we haven't been able to come into them because we didn't fast. And in my case, God called me on a 21-day fast. And I loved it. I was on 20-day fast, and while I was fasting, the Lord showed me a picture. While I was believing, singleness was best, marriage was bad. While I was believing all of this stuff in my head and preaching it and rallying up the troops who were giving themselves to this teaching, God showed me who my wife was. And you know what? God had to do stuff because a lot of you're believing and you're trusting God. Your mate is probably in a position where they can't say yes to you. In my case, my bride, she had a wedding dress and she was getting prepared to go marry some other dude. And when I started fasting and we tracked the history of when my fasting happened, God spoke to her when she's putting her wedding dress in the closet. The man that you're engaged to is not your husband. He's not a minister. Yours will be a minister. And she knew she had to break it off. And we tracked the time. When God called me on that 21-day fast, that's when God broke that. And God broke the belief in my head. So a compelling reason is that God needs to clear your state of being and mind and use your energy of your fasting as a mechanism to move angels from heaven to earth to bring what God has for you. And a third compelling reason you and I talked about, Ella, is about the health system that most of us are affected. Is that a compelling reason? Talk to us about the compelling reason around the health system in America, while most of us need to begin to practice fasting, no matter what, where our perspective is.
Well, we have a lot of sick people, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, we know that there's some things that are happening that's causing this sickness.
Mm-hmm.
This epidemic of so many people, even young people that are sick. And one of the things is that there's an accumulation of waste in the body
Mm-hmm.
that builds up over time and goes into inflammation, causes disease. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of this can be prevented when we have a fasting lifestyle because
Mm-hmm.
fasting is a cleanse. It's a
Mm-hmm.
form of a cleanse. But
Mm-hmm.
just to say, what is fasting? It's not necessarily fasting from watching your favorite show on TV or
That's not
anything like
fasting.
that. Fasting is abstinence from food. And
Mm-hmm.
so, just to keep it simple, it's abstinence from food. But when we deny the flesh, what happens is the spirit begins to get stronger and stronger.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's two
Mm-hmm.
different levels that's
Mm-hmm.
coming in, that's coming through you. And
Mm-hmm.
when you fast, you make one of them go up. It's like if this is a scale, then
Mm-hmm.
when you fast, they might be even before you fast, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe one's down here, maybe the natural one is down here and the spiritual one's up here, or maybe the spiritual one is down here. But when you fast, it brings the spiritual part of you
Mm-hmm.
into greater power. And
Mm-hmm.
this is what we need. We have to have power and we have to have authority. And when we
Mm-hmm.
have power and authority, what happens is we're able to really get through a lot more. We're able to also speak to our own bodies with power and with faith. And we're
Mm-hmm.
able to do great exploits because we are more in touch with that spiritual part of ourselves. There is nothing wrong with our spirit. Jesus
Mm-hmm.
Christ
Yes.
paid the price for us to have a brand new spirit,
Mm-hmm.
and so, but what we do have to deal with is to contend with this body and with the soul, the
Mm-hmm.
mind, the will, and the emotions. This is the battle that goes on. And the fasting is
Mm-hmm.
helps the spirit to always rule.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
fasting, the spirit must rule. And so
Mm-hmm.
this is a consecrated act. That's what
Mm-hmm.
fasting. It is a consecrated act. It
Mm-hmm.
is something that you are dedicating not only just for yourself and your physical health. It is something you're dedicating to God. And what happens when you do that and you say, God, I'm fasting today, I need your help. God
Mm-hmm.
will help you through a fast, because you're going to probably get hungry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there were times I was hungry, but you know what? My objective, my goal was greater than the hunger, because
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I was committed to that in it with
Mm-hmm.
God, and it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't that I was making mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's making mistakes. We don't
Mm-hmm.
do what we're supposed to do. We off
Yeah.
timing's off sometimes. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where fasting brings
Mm-hmm.
us back into
Mm-hmm.
balance. And
Yes.
so I suggest that it is something that should be in every really in everybody's lifestyle, but particularly
Mm-hmm.
Christians. And if you do have a health issue, you know, you can find out what kind of fast could you do, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody can't fast all day. Some people have diabetes.
Right.
I mean, there are things you have to take into
There,
consideration.
there are people who should not be fasting. So
Right.
when we say we either teach on this, write on this, we say consult with your doctor, it's for a good reason. Because of fasting, I want to say we should define what fasting is, Ella, biblically, scientifically. We should fast because a lot of people don't fast because they haven't gotten good results from it, and often because they didn't get good results because how they have defined fast is not a fast. You said it was a sacred act, and what happened in Israel when someone brought a sacrifice that was damaged, it wasn't accepted by God. And a lot of us, we present something to God that looks like a fast, smells like a fast. Well, somebody told us it was a fast, but it's not a fast. And in order for us to understand what is a fast that we're talking about, because I can be talking about what a fast is, and you could be like I could be saying a trunk, and you thinking, yeah, a trunk, like the thing in the front of an elephant. No, I'm talking about a trunk. Yeah, like a suitcase. No, I'm not talking about that. A trunk. We know what a trunk is. The thing that's in the back of your car. So when we say fast, we need to probably really define what we're calling a fast, because it will affect what the outcome is. Isaiah 58 8 says, then your light will break out like the dawn and your healing. Everybody circle that scripture in that verse. It says your healing, your restoration, your new life will quickly spring forth. So the prophet Isaiah was saying, when you fast, the God kind of fast, one of the triggered outcomes is going to be healing on a spiritual level, a physical
Mm-hmm.
level, a social level, a financial level. But it won't be if you don't actually fast. If you're doing a behavior that you're calling a fast and it's not really a fast, this really needs to be clear. I mean, this happens with me at church when the pastor, we just started in our church a series on fasting, but often the pastor looked at me and said, well, by the way, he'll say what he says, he said, but Dr. Hopp says is this, because my definition of fasting is really evidence-based. Okay. And the
Mm-hmm.
evidence is truth. Okay. There's one thing about this. There are several facts, but it's only one truth. And so when God calls you on a fast, you must really know that what you're presenting to him is the sacred act. I mean, Eli's boys went into the altar and they was offering up strange fires and counting it as magic to get the results they saw their daddy was getting when he was doing this thing. But their daddy was doing it by God's sovereignty according to God's licenses, but they were doing it out of order. So every one of us need to have a really solid understanding what a fast is, especially if we're in church circles. How many of you been at church and the pastor says, we're all going to fast, just skip a meal? Well, skipping a meal for most of us may initiate a fast, but it would never reach the fasted state, which is the goal of the fast. And so, skipping a meal, and I hear people say it all the time, but in order to realize what God meant by what he said, we have to go back to the Hebrew language, the Greek language, and we should even consider what the scientific language is. For example, in the Old Testament, the word fasting, well, in today's dictionary, it would say fasting is abstaining from food. But the Hebrew word for fasting is tsom, Tsom. It's found in Nehemiah 9:1, Esther 4:16, Daniel 9:3. There's a whole lot of them. But you should know that in the Old Testament, they understood that fasting was a verb. It was a verb. And it says here in my notes here that the word for fasting is tsom. And it's found in Nehemiah 9:1. Both words means to abstain from food or from certain kinds of food. Fasting is not shopping. Okay, fasting is not watching sports. It has nothing to do with fasting. So some of us will stop watching sports, stop watching TV and all that, thinking that we're going to get the same biblical results that that the scriptures show that people got when they fasted. Understand this is a sacred act that involves you not eating. The Greek word for fasting could be found, examples of it in Matthew 17:21, Luke 2:37, 2 Corinthians 6:5, and this word is nestia, Nesteis, and it's found in Matthew 15:32 and Mark 8:3, and the word means to abstain from food, to practice abstinence as a religious or prophetic exercise. We know this is important for us as believers because the first sin in the planet had to do with us mismanaging food. And many of us, the origin of the sin of our life really is often associated with us mismanaging food or things that we consume or input and to stimulate the body. We need to know what this fasting is and that it's a very powerful tool to bring forth healing. We're having our time doesn't allow us to cover. So we're doing a series of fasting for your health at Pray Fast Daily's webinar platform on Saturdays, second, fourth Saturdays. If you guys aren't involved with something going on with WOW, we invite you to come to prayfastdaily.org and get trained in the science and the art of this. Because I got to tell you, I stumbled myself often because I didn't really know what a fast was. I didn't know that it was really had to do with giving up the substance. It's not taking in calories. I had to understand that initiating a fast wasn't the same as reaching a fasted state, which is the reason why God would tell you to fast. You're doing the fast to implement a fasted state. And you know what this is if you've ever been in a hospital. How many of you ever been into the hospital? You had to check in. They put you in the bed before. The very first thing that they do is they cut you off of intake of food substances and they put you on liquids because of the fact that this very act puts you in a fasted state, and for prophetic reason and scientific reasons that the medical community didn't really know why, but it is what triggered healing. We don't have a health system in America. We have a sick system. Our doctors aren't trained to heal. They're trained to do surgery and prescribe pills and to treat sickness in general. They don't even claim often to process or deliver the deliverance of healing. They focus on treating sickness. But God's model, God's technology for this is through the mechanism of biblical fasting, which its goal is to reach a fasted state. Why does God want you to reach a fasted state? Well, it's in the scriptures that it activates prophetic 911s. Have you ever had an emergency you needed God to intervene for? Have you ever needed like information that nobody else had? When we was coming up, you needed to know something, you called 411. If you were in trouble, you called 911. Well, today in modern times, if you want God to intervene on your behalf, you have to put up a 911 or a 411 through the act of fasting. And so, Ella, if someone asks you what fasting is in everyday language, can you give us a definition? And then we want to give you some guidance around when God calls you on a fast. It's not the length, it's the leading. But you got to understand, in order for you to affect a fast, there is some science around what the sacrifice is. If you took an imperfect, an improper lamb as a high priest into Israel to sacrifice before God, that priest would go down. They used to put a rope around the high priest's leg to pull him out because any old kind of fast is not acceptable to the Lord. Isaiah 58 said, any old kind of fast is not acceptable. A fast with the wrong motive, the wrong attitude, and the wrong metric could fail at the start. But Ella, in your words, give us what you would give people as a working understanding of what the fast is. And then I want to talk a little bit about why we need to understand this is what fasting is and what it is not.
Well, it's abstinence from food, but also abstinence from certain kinds of food. Because
Mm,
the Daniel fast, people do the Daniel fast. The Daniel
mhm,
fast involves vegetables and that type
mhm,
of thing, and you're not eating any meat. You're not eating anything that's going to be detrimental to the body. And so that's a form of fasting, also. But I would say at the chewy caramel center of this whole thing,
mhm,
that fasting is abstinence from food,
mhm,
and different types of food as well.
mhm,
So you could do a Daniel fast. Let's say you want to start with a Daniel fast, or you can, where you are not going to eat meat, you're not going to eat a lot of foods with chemicals in it. If you read the
mhm,
labels of food, everybody started reading the labels of food, you'll see so many chemicals in some of these
mhm,
foods, and a lot of that's a part of the problem.
mhm,
That causes the problems in the physical body. So when we start to fast, we can kind of empty those things out, and
mhm,
there's a level of fasting that you get to at the 17th hour, which is called autophagy. And the
mhm,
autophagy is when you get to the point where your body begins to eat up everything that's not healthy for it. So if
mhm,
there's even it'll eat fat, excess fat. It will eat waste. It'll eat up things that's in the cells that could cause you harm
mhm,
and disease. It begins to eat away at those things that are not healthy for you. And so when
mhm,
you reach autophagy, and everybody, this is maybe a goal. I think
mhm,
I think keeping it simple is always the best way, and that is to find a place where you can start. And if that is fasting 2 meals, I would say start there. But this is a strategy for everyone. If you are going to bed like at night, you might eat in the evening and then you sleep all night. That can be a part of your fast.
It is fasting. That's why we
Dedicate
call the
yourself
first meal
yourself.
breakfast.
Right,
It's
right,
breaking the
exactly.
fast. Yeah.
Right. So you're going to go through the night with the fast. And so when you get up, you're going to try to reach autophagy because you've already fasted at least from
8 hours. You
seven
got
or
eight
eight,
hours under your belt.
right?
Yeah.
8 hours at least. And so then from there, you go to another 4 hours to noon, and you already at 12. If you go a few hours more, you're going to be at a state of autophagy.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say do this like on an off day starting out, because sometimes when you're hungry, you can get irritable. How many know about that? You can,
Mm-hmm.
so if you really have to deal with a lot of people and a lot of, like trying kind of situations, I would say fast when test it out like on an off day or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
that autophagy that you reach is militarizing. That's what you use, Dr. Hopp.
Mm-hmm. It
Militarizing your
militarizes the body.
body to fight for you. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's also activating your immune system so that your
Mm-hmm.
immune system is coming up. So whatever's in there or whatever comes in, it's going to go right back out.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what the fast does. It causes you to not have to go to
Mm-hmm.
the doctor all the time. It
Mm-hmm.
causes you to not have to take prescription drugs more than normal. It
Mm-hmm.
causes you to have more freedom and more youthfulness
Mm-hmm.
than you had before.
Mm-hmm.
It can. I mean, there's so much that can be healed, and we
Yeah.
know that God can heal us.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what state we're in, God is able to heal. I've been healed several times just by the touch of God.
Yes.
But,
Yeah.
God is also, looking at where we are in life.
Mm-hmm.
That matters to him. So when
Mm-hmm.
we fast and we say, Father, what the doctor has said or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, or
Mm-hmm.
my sister's this or my brother's that, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm fasting for this. I remember
Mm-hmm.
my mother and I used to fast for a daughter and a mother who somehow or another stayed, they couldn't get along. But while we were fasting, when we fasted for them, it's like everything came together. And we would
Mm-hmm.
notice it, because
Mm-hmm.
they were friends of ours. We
Mm-hmm.
would notice it and we would say, you know what, every time we fast for them and we fast, they me and my
Mm-hmm.
mom would fast, they would,
Mm-hmm.
everything would smooth out, everything would be
Mm-hmm.
balanced, everything would be peaceful. And so a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times we can fight battles with the
Mm-hmm.
fasting that we can't fight these things in the flesh. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's too much. I
Yeah.
can't fight in the flesh anymore. I just realized
Yeah.
I can't. I
Yeah.
just throw my hands up in the air. If somebody's cursing me out, even I mean, I might want to do something, but I know I
Mm-hmm.
got to go back and pray or
Mm-hmm.
do something. These are
Yeah.
things that happen to us in life, and
Yeah.
we can't just act like it's not happening. We have to
Yeah.
find a strategy, a
Mm-hmm.
way of dealing with
Mm-hmm.
opposition, a way of dealing
Mm-hmm.
with something that is too much for you.
Yeah.
God is the one that will step in.
Mm-hmm.
He steps in when we call on him, but he steps in even more when
Mm-hmm.
we add fast to the prayer.
Yeah. So I want to say fasting in modern language is the intentional time bound reduction or absence of food intake that allows the body and brain to shift from constant digestion into a restorative, regulatory, and clarity producing state. I'm going to repeat that again. In modern scientific language, fasting is the intentional. You're not doing this by accident. When you go check into the hospital, they cut you off intentionally from consumption of food. It interferes with the medical process. One of the reasons why you need to consult with a doctor, especially if you're on medication, because the fasting changes your hormonal, your chemical level, your spiritual level. Fasting is the intentional time bound reduction or absence of food intake that allows the body and brain to shift from constant digestion into a restorative, regulatory, and clarity producing state. This is important that we understand the natural definition of it, but the prophetic definition, because they teach us what happens when you read the book of Genesis. When Cain slew Abel, God knew Cain slew Abel because Abel's blood was crying out, "Murder! Murder! Murder!" When you enter into the fasted state, it triggers a militaristic state of being of your spirit, man. Your spirit can begin to use your blood to communicate to God what is going on way beyond what you can comprehend. A lot of us, we don't even understand the nature of the giant that we're dealing with. We don't understand how it's able to stand. We don't know. We don't understand why it's able to still stick around after all the prayers and all the confessions and all the things where we have to understand that some of these giants will never be removed from our life unless we fast because of what fasting does physically and spiritually. When you fast, it automatically elevates your level of prophetic communication with God, your state of being. It gives you access to weapons of warfare that you never have access to until you separate yourself from natural realm to spiritual realm.
That's the thing. You're switching. You're switching
Yes,
on
you're
the switch
switching
that matters
systems.
most.
Yes, you're
That's
switching
it.
systems. And in the natural realm, the reason why hours are important to us is because the fastest state for most humans who stop eating, fasting starts the moment you stop eating and drinking, okay? Or just eating. It starts the state. It starts, but you don't reach the state of fasting, which is the goal of fasting to get all the benefits of Isaiah 58 happening. It doesn't happen until about 8 to 12 hours. It takes about 8 to 12 hours for the average human's body to get to the physical state of fasting that is recognized in the heavenlies as a fast. Okay. In the heavenlies, your body has to reach a state, a sacrificial state. What did you call it? It was a act.
Autophagy. What
Well,
an
it
act
reaches
of?
a sacrificial state. And one of
Oh
the
yeah.
triggers of autophagy
Hmm.
happens when you get to that 16th hour. In the 16th hour, so you write this number down, you need 8 hours to reach the fastest state. To trigger autophagy, it takes about, would you say, Ella, 16
It would
hours.
be
After
another.
16 hours.
After the
Yeah.
16th hour, you
Yeah.
go in, your
Yeah.
body
This,
begins to, your
mm-hmm.
body is then fighting. Your body
Yes.
is in such a powerful state. Your blood
Yes.
is being
Yes.
cleansed.
Yes.
Your everything is, your cells are being cleansed.
Mm-hmm.
A lot is going on chemically that we
Mm-hmm.
can't even, I mean, even the doctors don't totally understand at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you are doing that, but then this is what makes it more powerful. When you
Mm-hmm.
are fasting with your prayer, when you are praying with your fast, to say it that way,
Mm-hmm.
what is happening is not only are you empowering the physical vessel and
Mm-hmm.
and making it healthy, you are also bringing in the spiritual element, which
Mm-hmm.
also augments the power of healing. And
Mm-hmm.
so we have the natural working for us, then we have the spiritual working for
Mm-hmm.
us because our God wants us whole. I mean, when we start to really do this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it really activates good health and a good
Mm-hmm.
state of mind,
Yes.
because you get
Yes.
more focused. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there things will be much more clear. um you there are just so much that we relinquish, that we just give up, that's our right to have. But when I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking about people in the Bible like Daniel,
Mm-hmm.
he was a
Mm-hmm.
eunuch and he was in
Mm-hmm.
bondage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and he fasted. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, when he fasted, when the Hebrew boys fasted, I mean, all kind of
Mm-hmm.
things began to happen. We still have a supernatural, powerful God.
Mm-hmm.
And just because people are watered down with their belief now, and
Mm-hmm.
everything
Yeah.
is everything, and we got this and we got that, that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that God has changed. He's still the same. He still
Yeah.
honors a fast. A good fast is
Yeah.
dedicated to him.
Right.
But
Well,
the other, go ahead,
well,
Dr.
you
Hope.
said something about Daniel. Daniel was a eunuch.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel being he was a forced eunuch. He didn't volunteer for that.
Mm-hmm.
His masculine reproduction organs were removed from him to make him focus on his occupation, and this had to mess up his hormonal chemical system. And fasting was something that Daniel and the Hebrews boys did to bring to balance. We understand that there are triggers that happen on a cellular level, a prophetic level, an intellectual level when you fast. When the Hebrew boys fasted, what we refer to the Daniel fast, it took them longer to reach the fastest state, but when they did reach it with that method of fasting, that's why there are different kinds of fast. They get you to the fastest state at different rates and levels. When they got to that state, it not only healed their body, but it activated intellectual powers. This is why Christians aren't the only ones that fast. People from all kinds of religions, people that are high-ranking artists, will not eat for hours or days before a performance because they've discovered from their mentors and their experiences it allows you to access a power not readily available to you by human means. And so people that are atheists, they fast because this is a technology, a science from heaven, that we deny self. So I wanted to say again that fasting is intentional, it's voluntary, it's not somebody starving you. It's intentional. It's time bound reduction or absence of food, intaking of food into the body, so that you can reach the fastest state. Within 8 hours, your spirit and your body militarizes together and begin to conduct prophetic communications with God. This is why ministry gifts, they never eat before they're going to preach. They will deny themselves so they can have access to the words of knowledge, the word of wisdom, the prophecies, the gifts of healings, the working of miracles. But ministry gifts aren't the only ones that need this. People in business need ideations to get ahead of the game, not to come to the competition late with late information. If you want to be ahead of the game, you will begin to fast for your health and for prophetic intelligence. Again, the prophetic communication gets activated somewhere around the 8th or the 16th hour. This is why you'll see models in the scriptures where God's calling the people to fast. The models will be from sundown to sun up.
Mm-hmm.
it had a model where they were use these time triggers to access the spiritual powers and the physical the vessel powers to be able to connect and align with God. Fasting really isn't giving up something, it is gaining something. When you fast, it gives the body a break from the processing, all that energy that you use that causes many of us to be sick, from eating all the time, grazing all the time. It affects the body in a way that it produces sickness. It reduces internal noise. The Bible says there are many voices, and none of them are without signification. Many of you, you don't know which direction to go because you got so many voices coming to you that are demonic, that are human, that are angelic, that are prophetic from God. When you begin to fast, it quiets everything down so you can hear the voice of God. It restores the sensitivity. Physical and mental and prophetic sensitivity gets restored when you're fasting and you're using these models. So Ella had given her model of how you should start. I suggested people use one of my models. And in fact, where's my book? Thank you, Lord Jesus. Amen. On
You have a
fasting,
book
my
on it.
fasting playbook, get a copy of it because it covers many of these fundamentals. Here it is, my book, playing the the fasting, the playbook. I I wrote this book to help people understand that if this fat boy can fast, you can fast no matter what your condition is. I remember going to the doctor and the doctor examining me and weighing me and then telling me, based on the science that I'm reading from your records, you are morbidly obese. You know what I did after that doctor told me? I went out and bought me a big bag of barbecue potato chips. What was I going to do about it? What power did I have? The power I discovered was in fasting. Over a series of years, God told me, look, I want you to not eat when I tell you not to eat. I want you to eat when I tell you to eat. And that's the only time you eat. Well, I didn't know what God was doing, but God began to actually give the ability for me, because I need great. I came from a surfing culture. I had a meal and a cuisine for every mood that I was in, and I grazed all the time. I had techniques to manage the trauma, the rejection, the low self esteem, the abandonment, all these things. But the Lord began to deal with me, and Ella, over a period of a year and a half, I was fasting as the Lord was telling me, and I didn't even realize that I had lost like 58 pounds. I wasn't fasting to lose weight, but it became a byproduct of me obeying God, bringing the sacred offering before the Lord, denying myself. But people
It's
that ran
balance.
into me, yeah,
It was
people,
balance.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and
Bring into
I'm
balance.
5'2". So me weighing 275 pounds, that is a huge guy. Look, that made me look twice as big as I was because of my stature. But then Ella, I would come across people that had seen me in the wild, and I thought they were going to be impressed by the level of weight that I had lost. But you know what people was most impressed by was the loss of age,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
of the consistent state of fasting and me experiencing autophagy in my life. It began to take age off of me. I began to look 5 and 10 and 15 and 20 years younger. They wanted to know what was happening. Did I have plastic surgery? Did I do a procedure to get that? No. No, I was just
No.
obeying God, and I didn't have the knowledge we're giving you guys. I don't know. Is this helping anybody? Let us know in the chat. Let us know what you're getting, because we just don't know how much we're overloading, because we live with this. We have these conversations with each other because we realize that many of you are wrestling with sickness you've never been able to get rid of, and you will never get rid of it until you come into a fasted state, until you give the body the ability to reset and to rest and to be converted. Many of you do not realize that the mate that God has for you is in bondage right now. He is not free to accept you. He can't see. He can't live up to the standard, and he's living right now in the planet. He needs you fasting before you meet him, so you can be the best version of yourself. I'm telling you, if you don't begin to practice fasting as a lifestyle so you can reach the fasted state, he may not be able to recognize you when he sees you, or she, if it's a brother on the call. I think it's important that we understand what fasting is. And so I think, gosh, should we open up for questions? Do anybody got questions that you want to ask? You can unmic yourself if there's a question. Somebody said this is good, better understanding why God would tell you to do such a thing. God wasn't telling me to fast because he hated me. He wasn't telling me to fast because he was putting me on a timeout. God was concerned for me. And I'm telling you right now, had I not obeyed God with the fast that he had chosen for me, my wife would have been a widow right now. Because the things that was killing me, I didn't have the power to stop doing them. I was in a state of slow suicide because of what I was doing to my body and my mind and my spirit. I was silencing God's voice like it was in the days of Noah because they were overtaken with surfeiting in the days of Noah. They couldn't sense that their world was coming to an end. The animals knew to get up in that boat, but a lot of those humans didn't know because their senses were so dull, they couldn't detect the danger. God is calling many of us to fast because we've not adequately broken the soul tie with an ungodly man, an inadequate man. Some of us haven't properly gotten rid of the lesbianism and the homosexuality from the last relationship because the last person that we were so tied with, when we had sex with them, they transferred their demons and we transferred their demons. This is biblical. This is what happens when we do these things to our bodies. And in order to correct that, we have to bring the body back into alignment with the God kind of fast. Questions?
Yes, can
Go ahead, Evangelist Shirley.
She's talking, but we can't hear.
Are you muted?
Muted.
Oh, you're muted, Shirley. You're muted. Unmute yourself.
Oh, and she looks like she's frozen. Are you
okay,
back?
I think you're
okay. I wanted to know, how do you spell that state that you read at 17 hours of etopic phase? How do you spell that word, sir?
autophagy. Can you spell it?
Utopia.
Auto?
I'll send it to you, Miss Shirley. I got it.
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
Autophagy. Okay.
Okay.
Very important quality. Autophagy is a state that you reach and you can't get there skipping the meal. You can't get to autophagy skipping the meal. Bless the souls of all those who are skipping meals and think they're doing some fasting something. I think God honors that when you're a babe, but when you're not a babe, God expects more from you.
So is it better than, is it better than to do anywhere from 5 to 7 days, or more benefits if you do longer, like 10 to 21 days? Which one gives you the more benefit?
The prophetic guidance, it's not the length, it's the leading. But in order to meet the metric, I recommend people start fasting digestive cycles. I'll give you an example of, typically have 3 of them. One starts from 8 in the morning to 4 p.m. 8 in the morning to 4 p.m. And when you're in, one is from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., 4 p.m. to 12 midnight, 12 midnight to 8 a.m. This is why we call it the first meal that we Americans eat breakfast, because we're eating the meal that breaks the fast from the night when we were sleeping. But some people's cycles are different because of their schedules. Some people work all night, and so they have to switch it around. So you should become, and this is why we say, come to the webinar. You can register Pray Fast Daily. It's free of charge. It'll be, I think you have to check, because I think it's 12 o'clock your time on East Coast. But this is where we get into these techniques. But to say those hours you gave me, I really can't say. It depends on where you start the fast. And remember, we said it takes about 8 hours to get to medically or physically to a fasted state. But the 16th hour is when autophagy begins. The healing, where your body shifts for drawing on energy and food from eating from the body, and it takes it from stored up food that's in the body that begins to release you prophetically and physically. Ella, did you want to say something about that?
I think you answered it pretty much. There's another hand, so we're running out of time.
Anyone else?
Another hand.
Next question.
Dr. Nina.
Dr. Tina, go ahead. Unlike yourself.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And this has been so fruitful. Thank you. I just wanted to share, I used to fast quite a bit all the time, and then I got out of it. But when I fasted, I did the 21-day, and what I do would lead my body in. So I would have, I'd be able to do fruits and vegetables and juices the first day, leading in, and then the vegetables would drop off the second day, and then the third day it would be all juices, and then the fourth day you would lead in with water. You drink this mixture with lemon, cayenne pepper, and maple syrup, grade B, and you would do that. And for the duration of the fast, and then to lead out, you would do like you did in leading in. You would start to do um, the juices, and then to lead out juices, and then fruits, and then the third day you can do vegetables, and then that prepared your body not to be in the shock and to be able to reach that state of and I can't pronounce the word you just said, but
autophagy. So autophagy. So I would say, Ella, this is a good place for you to give people the different types of fasts. Okay, they all help you to get to the fastest state differently. What you were sharing, Dr. Nina, we need to do that because most of us, prior to fasting, we live ungodly food eating lifestyles. Okay, our bodies are messed up. Our bodies aren't prepared. Those are very important techniques you gave to prepare the body for fast. There are different time windows in biblical models where people fast for 40 days, 21 days, 10 days, 3 days. My basic fasting belt weight is one digestive cycle, but it's the leading of Holy Spirit based on the science than it is the length. And that these things that you mentioned, those are things that we'll cover in the webinar that you can do to prepare. But what Nina shared was really good wisdom for us to prepare the body because most of our bodies aren't prepared to fasting. There are some people that should not be fasting. This is why we say, hey, check with your doctors, have that conversation. I went to my doctor to get a consult on fasting because I'm sure my doctor was going to tell me don't do it, and that was going to be my way out. My doctor was like, no, oh wow, when are we going to get started? Because that person understood the power mechanism of the technology of fasting. But thank you, Nina. Okay, so we're past time. I just got to know we're past time. So Ella, can you mention the 4 types of fasting? And I will turn it back over to Dr. K. And Dr. K, I don't know if you would give Ella a moment to share her magazine cover. I think it'll be really next time. Important. But we can't come back next week is what she told us. Okay.
Right.
All right. All right. I'm gonna cry.
Time is important. It's all in timing.
Yes. Go ahead, Miss Ella, if you wanted to talk about the different types of fasting before we get ready to close out.
Yeah, Ella, can you mention the types of fasting?
Well, the types of fasting. First of all, you have the fast where you do like the Daniel fast. So you're going to have some foods that you will eat that will be good for your digestion and also they're nutrient rich foods, vegetables, fruits, and that type of thing.
And we call it partial fasting. It's called partial fasting.
But it's still fasting.
It's fasting.
Partial fasting. And then you have
it takes it longer. It takes you longer to get to the fast to say when you go that route, but it's legit. It's a legitimate method of fasting. Okay, go ahead.
Right. Okay, and then you have the water fast. Well, when I say water fast, I mean you're not going to eat food, but you're going to drink water. And you can drink water throughout your fast, but you're not eating anything solid or anything like that. Okay, so that's the water fast, and that is the one that I recommend because your body, you don't want to get dehydrated. Maybe you were tired or something, and that's the other thing. Rest and everything is important too with your fast. But
and then it supports the health goal of fasting. Because if you put inputs in there, it can interfere with the state of fasting. If you are even drinking something that's not water, it can affect the level of autophagy as well as the fasted state. So yes,
like a Pepsi won't do. A Pepsi will not do. Okay. And then last you do a total fast, what we call a total fast, where you don't drink water, you don't eat anything, you just breathe air. And you pray and you get the food that Jesus talked about. There's a food that I have that you don't know about. Okay. And it's the food that Jesus had when he was on the mountaintop, when he went to the mountain and he fasted and the devil came out there, and he told the devil where to go and how to get there.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that's how we want to be. We want to be powerful. We want to be able to speak to demons and tell them which way to go. And a lot of times I tell them, hey, go lick in the ground. Don't go normal. Go lick in the ground. And when you are assured in that, and you are militarized to have that authority, you can use the name of Jesus, and it's not like, something's gonna happen. Okay. So that's what the fasting helps us to do.
So that would be called the total fast. I recommend it for short stints of fasting, an 8-hour digestive cycle. Sometimes I will go 24 hours in that same state. It's based on the leading and the lymph, but we also want to keep in balance the scientific evidence that supports this technology. And so, Ella, can you come back next week?
Oh,
you're gonna let me know, right?
We'll talk about it offline.
Right.
This has been really, really good. I mean, yes, right. The total fast, that dry fast where you're not eating, drinking nothing. I've pursued it. It's amazing, and before we close out, you guys have just hit so many different things. But one thing when you mentioned about, where you're praying, and those answers aren't coming out. And it's because even in the Bible it says this kind comes out only by fasting. You know what I mean? So certain demonic spirits and principalities that may be overflowing in your life, you know what I mean? It's not enough to just pray. You know what I mean? You got to put that regimen together. And I always talk about it. There's a regimen, there's fasting, there's praying, there's praising, you know what I mean? And that's that word too. And so once more, just thank you guys for this. If anyone has any additional questions, please get with us at WOW, and we would get it over to Dr. Daniel and Minister Ella.
Yeah, can I say, please, I invite you to the Pray Fast Daily webinar this Saturday. I think it's 12 o'clock, but you have to go to the website to register. It's free of charge. But this is where we can get into the nuts and bolts of the technology behind this. And thank you guys for the invitation. Thank you, Dr. K. I'm so jealous of all her 11 grandchildren, but I'll move past it. Pray for me.
Wow,
I guess I have to fast on this one too.